Ladies and gentlemen, where do we begin? Let's paint a picture. It's April, the sun is shining, the birds are singing, the flowers are blooming, and you're sitting in a dark room, staring at a wall, feeling absolutely nothing. You are hollowed out. Why? Because you, my friend, have made a catastrophic error in judgment somewhere in your life. You are an Arsenal fan, and it's not the losing that gets you. Oh no, any moron can support a team that just loses. Ask a Sheffield United fan. At least there's honesty in that. No, the thing that poisons your soul, the thing that curdles your milk, is the hope. It's that little insidious voice that whispers, "This is our year." It's that run of 8 wins in October, that beautiful, free-flowing, one-touch football that convinces you, this time it's different. And then, like a script written by a sadist, the gears grind. The star player pulls a hamstring, the defence forgets how to defend, and you're watching your team bottle a 2-goal lead against West Ham, and you feel that all-too-familiar cold dread creeping back in. That, my friends, is the Arsenal experience. It's not just pain, it's artisanal, small-batch, handcrafted disappointment delivered to you every single spring. Today, we're not just looking at the pain, we're putting it under a microscope. This is why it sucks to be an Arsenal fan. 1. The agony of almost. You do it every single time. You lie to your friends, you lie to your family, but worst of all, you lie to yourself. I'm not getting carried away, you say, as you mentally calculate the maximum number of points Manchester City can still get. I'm just enjoying the football, you absolute liar. And then Arsenal does what it does best. It makes you believe. They don't just win, they look phenomenal. They play a brand of football so pure it should be in an art gallery. Bukayo Saka is cooking, Martin Odegaard is conducting a symphony, William Saliba is tackling ghosts, and you poor simple fool, you open up that little box in your heart that you swore you would keep locked, you start to dream, and that's when they strike. This isn't just a feeling, it's a data-driven, recurring psychological torture program. Let's talk about the 2022-23 season. You were top of the league for 248 days. I want you to let that number sink in. 248 days. That is the most days any team has been at the top of the English top flight without winning the title. You didn't just bottle it, you set a historical precedent for failure. You were so far ahead, bookies were paying out bets. You probably told your United supporting mate, it's over, and you were the jinx. The collapse wasn't a single event, it was a slow, agonising bleed out. It was the 2-2 draw at Anfield after being 2-0 up. It was the 2-2 draw at West Ham after also being 2-0 up. It was the 3-3 draw at home to Southampton, the worst team in the league. You needed a last-minute miracle just to get a draw. See, most teams crumble under pressure. Arsenal, they disintegrate. The process that Mikel Arteta talks about is like a beautiful, complex IKEA flat pack. It looks incredible on the box. But the moment you lose one specific crucial screw, say William Saliba, the entire thing just wobbles, splinters and collapses into a pile of expensive plywood. And what was the backup plan for that $1 million defence? Rob Holding. In a title race against a state-funded cyborg army. That's not a plan. That's bringing a spoon to a gunfight. You're not supporting a football club. You're in a toxic relationship with a partner who is brilliant, funny and gorgeous for 8 months, and then every April they need space. Start texting their ex and leave you with the bill. There's the hope that kills you. 2. The Banter Years, a decade of paid humiliation. For those of you who just hopped on the Arteta bandwagon, you might think this almost winning the league pain is the worst it can get. You sweet naive child, you have no idea what it took to survive. The banter era. You merely adopted the misery. We were born in it. We were forged in the fires of the annual 5-1 loss to Bayern Munich. This was the decade-long spiritual hangover after the Invincibles. We built a new stadium, the Emirates, a soulless corporate bowl with all the atmosphere of a dentist's waiting room and the most expensive tickets in Europe. And to pay for it, we sold our souls. We sold our best players to our rivals, Cesc Fabregas, Barcelona, Samir Nasri, Man City, Emmanuel Adebayor. Man City, where he proceeded to do that celebration, and Robin van Persie. Oh, Robin, the man who had one good season in 8, and the moment he did, he forced a move to Manchester United and won them the league. That's not just a transfer, That's a Shakespearean betrayal. And what did we get in return? We got a parade of mediocrities. We got Andre Santos. We got Sebastian Squillaci. We got Kim Källström, who was signed while injured. Our midfield was anchored by Denilson, who famously completed 1,000 sideways passes and created 0 chances. Our great hope was Jack Wilshere, a man whose ankles were apparently made of wet cardboard. Arsène Wenger, a man we all love but who stayed about 5 years too long, convinced an entire generation of fans that finishing 4th was a trophy. We actually celebrated it. "We kept the financial stability," we cried, while Chelsea and City were buying titles like they were on a grocery run. And the Champions League. Oh, that wasn't a competition. That was an annual ritual humiliation. We'd scrape through the group stage and then, like clockwork, we'd draw Barcelona or Bayern Munich in the round of 16. It was a scheduled execution. The 10-2 aggregate loss to Bayern wasn't a football match, it was a crime scene. And after every single drubbing, the 8-2 to United, the 6-0 to Chelsea for Wenger's 1,000th game, Arsène would just say, "We showed great mental spirit, and we lacked a bit of belief." No, Arsène, we lacked a defence, we lacked a spine, and we, the fans, lacked any shred of dignity. 3. The transfer policy designed by a maniac the transfer window. For most fans, it's a time of excitement and possibility. For you, it's a 3-month anxiety attack. You wake up, check your phone, and see Manchester City has just signed another £60 million world beater. Meanwhile, Arsenal is monitoring a 19-year-old winger from the Belgian 2nd Division who might be available on loan. For a solid decade, your transfer strategy appeared to be run by a committee of people who had never met each other and hated football. It was a glorious, chaotic mess. Remember when your club record signing was Nicolas Pépé for £72 million? 72 million pounds. We paid that for a man who looked like he'd won a contest to be there. He'd get the ball, do 15 step-overs, and then trip over his own feet or pass it directly to an opponent. He was a highlights reel who forgot to bring the highlights, but Pépé was just the tip of the iceberg. This is the club that decided in the year 2020 to give a 3-year contract to a 32-year-old Willian from Chelsea. His contribution? He spent the entire season looking like he'd just found out his dog had died. He was physically present, but his soul had already retired. And who could forget his tag team partner in mediocrity, David Luiz? We signed him to fix the defence. That's like hiring an arsonist to be your fire marshal. The man was a walking penalty, a red card in waiting, a beautiful-haired agent of chaos sent by our rivals to destroy us from within. It was a policy of signing Chelsea's leftovers, Peter Cech, after he was done. Cech was a legend, but we signed him when his reflexes were so slow he probably could have saved the original shot, but not the rebound from 2005. And let's not speak of the true dark ages, the era of Shkodran Mustafi, a World Cup winner who defended like he was actively trying to help the other team score, the panic buy of Park Chu-young, the mystery of Kim Källström's broken back. It wasn't a process, it was just pure, unadulterated vibes, and all the vibes were bad. You've spent a literal £1 billion just to get back to the point of almost winning things. 4. The most online fan base on earth. Here's the thing. The football is painful. The transfers are baffling. But the single worst thing about being an Arsenal fan is other Arsenal fans. That's you. You're the most terminally online, emotionally volatile and insufferable group of people in the history of sports. Supporting this club isn't a hobby for you. It's a full-time, high-stress job, managing your own personal brand as an Arsenal fan. You can't just watch a match, you have to live tweet it. The second the team sheet drops at 2 p.m, the civil war begins. Why is he starting Trossard? Arteta has lost it. No Ramsdale. Disgrace. Just Arteta out. The game hasn't even kicked off, and you're already furious at a hypothetical future you've invented in your head. And then, the game. We concede a goal in the 10th minute. Check the timeline. It's over. Sell the club. This team has no mentality. Saka is finished. Season's over. See you in August. It's not support. It's a performance. It's a contest to see who can be the most visibly disappointed. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. AFTV. You did this. You took your private suffering, the quiet, dignified pain of watching your team lose 8-2, and you monetized it. You turned your post-match meltdowns into a global content franchise. I'm tired, Robbie. He's a specialist in failure. You became a running joke. Other fans didn't even have to mock you. They just had to pull up a YouTube clip of your own fan base having a collective aneurysm outside the Emirates. The Wenger in versus Wenger out brigade wasn't a football debate. It was a 5-year-long battle that tore families apart. And now it's just morphed. You're either a process trust occultist who believes Mikel Arteta is a hybrid of Jesus Christ and Pep Guardiola, or you're a doomer who thinks he's a fraud one bad result away from being found out. There is no in-between. You've made supporting a football team an exhausting 24/7 job of defending your XG models. You're not fans, you're just warring political factions with a matching colour scheme. 5. The silent vampire in the owner's box. You watch the news, you see owners storming into the dressing room to yell at players, you see them firing managers on the tarmac, you see them pumping billions of dollars into their new toy, desperately chasing glory. And then, there's your guy, Stan Kroenke, Silent Stan. A man who looks like he's permanently just been woken up from a nap he didn't want to take. A man whose primary contribution to the club for a decade was a masterpiece of financial vampirism. Let's be very clear about this. This isn't just an owner who didn't invest. This is an owner who, after a leveraged buyout, literally forced the club to pay him pounds $3 million a year for advisory services. What advice was he giving? Try to aim the round ball at the rectangle net. He was charging the club for the privilege of him owning it. It's like buying a house and then sending the house a bill for consulting on how to be a house. For years, you had to sit there and listen to the club justify its own poverty. We have to be self-sustaining. We can't compete with the oil states. All while your owner, a man with a net worth that could buy a small country, was busy winning the Super Bowl with his other team, the LA Rams. He was perfectly happy to go all in and spend a fortune, as long as it was in California. For Arsenal, the plan was just, hope Arsene finds another 17-year-old French kid, I guess. The Kroenke out protests were a staple of your life. Fans marching with banners, screaming into the void, while Stan was probably on his ranch in Montana, completely unaware the team was even playing. The European Super League? Of course, he was in on that. It was the perfect Kroenke dream, a closed-shop league with no relegation and guaranteed profits. It was the NFL, but with soccer. No risk, all reward. It was only when you, the fans, took to the streets and literally stopped a game from happening that he was forced to release a statement written by his lawyers. His son, Josh, is now the face of the operation, saying all the right things about processes and passion. And to be fair, they have started spending money. But it only took a decade of fan revolt, total on-pitch humiliation, and missing the Champions League entirely to get their attention. You didn't get a passionate owner who wanted to win. You got a landlord who finally realised his property was about to be condemned, so he gave it a new coat of paint to keep the rent checks coming. 6. The media's favourite punching bag. You ever notice how when Arsenal loses a game, it's not just a loss, it's a crisis, it's a collapse, it's the end of the Arteta project. When Manchester United loses 4-0, the story is, how can the club help the players? When Arsenal draws 2-2, the story is, do these players have the mentality to be champions? You are, and always have been, the media's favourite whipping boy. You're the benchmark for softness. For an entire generation of pundits, Gary Neville, Roy Keane, Jamie Carragher, Arsenal is just a synonym for spineless. They queue up, giddy with excitement, to talk about your lack of leaders, your naivety, your pretty football that wins nothing. They could watch you win 5-0, and the analysis would be, but could they do it on a cold, rainy night in Stoke? A team that hasn't even been in the league for 5 years. The media has a built-in narrative for you, and they will never ever let it go. You're the nice boys, you're over-celebrating. Remember the criticism when you celebrated beating Liverpool? Pundits were genuinely furious that the players were happy about winning a crucial game. They're obsessed with your body language. Is Martin Odegaard smiling too mumuch after a tackle? Is Bukayo Saka too nice to the opposition? This is a story that writes itself. You are the perfect content farm. You're a massive global club, so it gets clicks. You have the most volatile online fan base in the world, so it gets engagement. And you have a long, well-documented history of crumbling in the most spectacular televisual way possible. You're not a football club. You're the main character in a tragicomedy that everyone loves to watch. You're not just playing against 11 men. You're playing against 20 years of psychological baggage. You're playing against every specialist in failure comment, every Spurs have overtaken Arsenal think piece, every pundit just waiting for you to slip so they can say, "See, I told you so." Same old Arsenal. Pretty, but weak. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you're the poor saps who have to watch it come true every spring. 7. Your rivals are all pointing and laughing. There's one last bitter pill to swallow. It's the unique humiliation of your place in the football ecosystem. You are the big club that everyone has surpassed. You're like the oldest brother who was supposed to inherit the family fortune. But somehow, you lost it all, and now you have to watch your obnoxious younger cousins buy helicopters. Let's start with the obvious one. Tottenham. Oh, Spurs. For your entire adult life, they were a joke. They were Spursy. Their entire reason for existing was to be your inferior. You invented a holiday, St. Totteringham's Day, to celebrate the mathematical moment they couldn't finish above you. That's how dominant you were. You didn't just beat them, you patronised them. And then, it stopped. The holiday was cancelled. They built a new stadium that's not a library. They got to a Champions League final. A Champions League final. Sure, they lost in the most boring game in history, but they got there. While you were getting knocked out of the Europa League by Olympiacos, you had to endure pundits for years asking, "Has the power shifted in North London?" The question itself was the insult. It didn't matter if it had or hadn't. The fact it was a legitimate debate meant you had already lost. You, Arsenal, were being compared to Tottenham. It was a fall from grace so profound it's amazing you survived it. But they're not even the real problem. The real problem is the blue-tinted money. While you were pinching pennies for Arsene, Roman Abramovich parked his yacht in West London and just bought the league. Over and over, Chelsea became everything you were supposed to be. A dominant, ruthless, trophy-winning machine. They won the Champions League. Twice. They won the Premier League. They won everything. And they did it by being the exact opposite of you. Ugly, cynical and effective. They were the villains, but they always won. And just to rub it in, they'd smash you 6-0 or beat you in a European final, just to remind you of the food chain. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, Manchester City showed up. They saw Chelsea's new money and raised it by a sovereign wealth fund. They didn't just buy the league, they bought football. They created a dynasty that you, with your process and your 5-year plan, have to compete against. You have to be perfect. You have to win 18 games in a row just to have a chance. And the one time you looked like you might actually do it, they just sighed, yawned, and won 12 straight to crush your dreams. You're not in a title race. You're just the plucky protagonist in their documentary. You're stuck. You're not a scrappy underdog. You're not a financial juggernaut. You're not a lovable loser. You're just there. You're the club everyone respects but nobody fears. You're the team that plays the nicest football on the way to finishing second. You're the punchline. So yeah, your past is a museum of almosts. Your fan base is a 24/7 online therapy session. And your future is mortgaged on a process that has no margin for error. You're stuck paying the highest prices to watch the most beautiful, elaborate and heartbreaking failures in sports. Why do we do it? I don't know. Maybe we're all just masochists. Subscribe anyway.